Hello and welcome to Kicking Tires. My name is Jimmy,
And I'm Justin.
and today we got some news. But I want to give you an overview. Today we're going to talk about the Nsx. We're going to talk about the Countach. That's going to be interesting. Genesis reviewed the brand new GV60. This is literally news that happened like an hour ago, and of course the Nissan Z. We got to talk about that as well. But first, let's talk about the Integra. Oh, that is not the Integra. Let me. Oh, that is not it. Oh, I messed up. There it is. The Integra. So Acura released this one picture of the Integra. It's not even a picture. It's like a sketch drawing of the Integra.
Yeah.
So, I mean, let's talk a little bit about it. It looks like every other Acura that's currently on the road with its
Yes.
kind of headlight design. Looks the same as the grill, but that's
hmm
all we know.
Even the way the hood opens is the same.
Yeah.
So yeah, the only thing that really sets it apart is that it has the Integra name embossed into the bumper, just like the DC2.
Yeah, the old Integra, the DC2s,
Yeah,
because the DC5 didn't have that.
yeah, and I think
Um,
even the DBs didn't have
mm. So
that.
here's the speculation for the Integra. We're gonna see this in probably 2 or 3 years, but this is what I'm thinking the Integra would be. A lot of people think it's the return of the Coupe. I don't think so. Honda killed off the Coupe because it didn't sell well. I think it's going to be a four-door vehicle based on the Civic. It's gonna be maybe having a coupe version, but like the coupe, like a grand coupe, so like a four-door coupe.
Mhm.
I think that would be kind of interesting for Acura to play out because Acura is like the higher end Honda, right? The
Yeah,
Civic Coupe, or sorry, Civic Hatch is doing really well, and they can just take that. I
yeah,
think the base motor, probably a 1.5 liter turbo four, the exact same one that's in like the Civic Si. And I think they're probably going to do the 2 liter turbo that's in like the RDX, the Accord, and whatnot as the optional engine. A lot of people are saying, oh, it's going to be like the Civic Type R. I don't think so. Even if they make a Type S version, I don't think so because the Civic Type R cannot be undercut by an Integra Type S. As history has told us, the Type S has always been a step down from any Type R. So if they are going to make a a CTR but an Integra version, an ITR, I guess, it would have to be an Integra Type R. But so far, the only thing that they're releasing is a new Integra is coming.
hmm yeah. I think it's gonna be that ILX replacement because the
Yeah.
ILX is very outdated now.
Hmm.
And even throughout the 10th generation, we're already seeing like, why would anyone pick the ILX over the 10th gen Civic Touring? Because the Civic is still a little bit cheaper and has a newer, better engine, I think. And
Yeah.
just overall, it's a much newer package, even 5 years ago. So
So
the ILX is really long overdue for an update.
as of right now, the ILX is actually 2 generations in terms of chassis older than the Civic.
hmm And the
Because
Civic, the new one, has been such an upgrade. I I got the chance to work on one this weekend, and I drove it a little bit. It's so much more refined than the 10th gen. Um, the infotainment's pretty snappy. It still takes some getting used to. The steering has way too many buttons on it. But as far as like driving goes, I thought it was like a big step up in terms, probably more refined than the current ILX,
oh yeah, the ILX does not drive great. It drives like the ninth gen Civic because that's what it is.
which
It
was the
drives.
worst of the Civics, like arguably.
But what's good about it is if you want a naturally aspirated Civic, that's the one, right? That's the one to get. I mean, you can get a base model Civic, but it doesn't have enough power. This still had a K24, I think it is. I mean, it's good, but no, nowhere from great. But yeah, that's the speculation. It's an ILX replacement. It's probably going to be a sedan, maybe
Yeah.
a four-door sports coupe thing. But I don't think it's going to be some crazy performance orientated vehicle. It's just going to be like maybe a step up, and that's about it.
Hmm. Yeah, I think it'd be more like the regular Integras that we got, the four-door sedan variant.
Yeah,
Um,
which
yeah,
was which was fine.
yeah, I don't. Well, I think they will probably do a Type S because then it's kind of blasphemous to make an MDX Type S and just ditch the Integra,
Integra,
like
yeah.
not do an Integra Type S.
Mhm.
Like that's like Toyota doing a GR Sienna and then like
Ooh,
and
ooh.
then ignoring, you know, historically sportier models.
I don't know what you're
Like
talking about.
it
The
waters
Sienna is
down
a
the
the Sienna is the sportiest model of them all. The
yeah, or
XSE
a
trim.
Sequoia. Yeah.
Because you're absolutely right. Because the Acura did release recently the Nsx Type S, which is what we're going to talk about next year. The Nsx Type S was teased, I think, last week, if not the week before,
Hmm.
and got fully released at the Monterey Car Week here. It's kind of what we thought it would be. It's not a huge upgrade. It's a little bit different. There's 350 of them that's going to be built. 300 of them are going to the US. It has 600 horsepower, which is 27 more, and 492 pound-feet of torque, which is 16 more. But what's interesting is what they have to do to get that little bit amount of power. The turbochargers are actually from the NSX GT3. So they
Mm.
have to upgrade the entire turbocharger. There's 6% increase in boost, 20% greater battery capacity, and 10% higher battery output. That nets you 27 horsepower. Like,
Peak gains. Okay.
I, yes.
Maybe
So
there's the area under the curve and before,
that's the thing. I do
yeah.
want to see a dyno between the two,
Yeah.
because I'm more curious of like what that actually means in terms of usable power every day. And what they have said is around Suzuka circuit, it is 2 seconds faster, and that's not a small feat. That's not 30 horsepower difference.
Hmm.
There's other things as well, because like there's going to be a lightweight package that you can get carbon ceramic brakes, a carbon engine cover, as well as carbon interior trim, which reduces about 50, almost 58 pounds. So like there are, other things that play into effect here. But 2 seconds around a Suzuka is pretty good, I think.
Yeah. I feel like an available lightweight package, you're only making 350 of these. Like, why wouldn't you just do it that
So
way?
the NSX Type S's that are available for Canada, they're all going to be with the lightweight
Ah,
package. That's what I was told by actually a sales associate here. But in the US, you can get that option.
yeah. So lightweight package got the prettier engine cover and interior bits. Hmm. Yeah, it doesn't make sense from a product planning perspective to, like, I feel like it would just cost more at that point to not include it than
Yeah.
to have some built one way. And ultimately, people are probably gonna. I guess the idea is to keep MSRP down because
It,
that was kind of the NSX's Achilles heel. Not only when it first came out and dealers were marking them up, it just opened a can of worms and like put this NSX against cars that it wasn't initially meant to compete with. And I think
well,
that's why this NSX had such a rough few years of production, I feel
well, you say that, but the first one sold at $1 million.
like.
But that
And
was
one.
that was for a good cause as well. I think it was for a charity. I can't recall right now, but
Yeah.
it
How do
was
you
for a
feel
good
about
cause.
their the new front end on this?
Eh, it doesn't. It's styled differently than
It
the
doesn't
old one.
flow as well as the original.
I don't think it looks as good as the original. I
Yeah.
don't think it fits in with the entire Acura lineup. It's just weird. To me, it looks like a car that was in Grand Theft Auto. That's what it
Yeah,
reminds me of more than anything.
that's kind of a trend these days. Like everything looks like a parody or like a forced facelift. So it's like a knockoff of the original, but you don't. It's
Yeah.
different enough that you think it's a parody. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's not terrible, but
There's
it's not cohesive. The rear looks pretty good.
the rear looks good. Once again, taken straight from Grand Theft Auto, because you get those big diffusers at that game, and it
Yeah,
literally
the
looks like that.
what do they call this? The Dinka something.
Yeah. What's kind of nice is this color. Oh, I had it written down. I forgot where I put it. What's it called? Oh, this Gotham gray metallic that we
Yes,
see. This
optional color.
is optional color. There's only 70 of them that's going to be built. It's a matte, like gray, matte dark gray. It looks amazing. I think it really fits the lines of the NSX and really shows off those creases that's around it. So I think it's a good call to get it in this color. Any other color, I don't think is really that special. But yeah, that's just me.
Yeah, if you're gonna get the special edition, you should get their special color. That's kind of my rule of thumb with a car like this. Get whatever they put on their press photos. That's probably the one to get.
Is that why you have a yellow Supra?
Is that what it was?
I forgot to add there is a carbon roof as well. That's standard on the Type S. That's
Rather
really
than a dealer installed accessory.
yeah, like dealer wrapped accessory more than anything.
Yeah.
All right, let's move on from that. Let's talk about the Countach. Last week we talked about the Countach, but that was all speculation. And I said, hey, what if it was an RSQ8 and then it just put a Lambo badge on the front? Turns out, it's similar to that, but not really. They took the Aventador and put a Countach badge on the front. So
Yeah, very mixed opinions on this car. Some people are like, it's gorgeous in person. You have to see it. And a lot of people are like, how is this almost $3 million?
yeah,
And I'm kind of in that boat.
so okay,
Yeah,
let's look at the facts here. It is beautiful, but we kind of all consider all Lamborghinis to be beautiful, right? Because
yeah.
they're just this supercar that we can't have.
And they haven't had a miss in a long time. Like the
No,
last 5 or 6 models that have come out, they're all pretty nice.
yeah, this is like last year. You might remember Lamborghini put out a special car called the Cyan. This is exactly that. Underneath is exactly that. It still has that big capacitor behind the seats for that additional 48-volt power. But of course, like all these special editions are just an Aventador. So like the interior of it, it's super dated. It just doesn't look good. But $2.6 million to $3 million is depending on how you spec it. I kind of thought that it would look a little bit more special. And there's a gentleman here. If you go to Instagram, you'll be able to find him. It's SP Designs Est SPDESIGNSEST. He actually took the Lamborghini Countach and made it an actual Countach. Like the renders that he did on this, like it's not revolutionary changes. It's he changed the headlights so that it actually has like a cover and a little slit underneath for the daytime running light, very similar to the old Countach. He had wheel arches added on so that it's very similar to the old Countach. There's a scoop on that side vent like the Countach, and of course a Countach, it needs that wing. Like I get the original Countach never had the fender flares, it didn't have the wing, but the
Yeah,
one that was on the poster, the one that you dream about,
the 500.
it did. It had those things, and it's just it makes
Yeah,
it that much more special. This
yeah.
render, beautiful.
I feel like Lamborghini gave us the original, like the first model year, and what we wanted was the last one,
Yeah,
the latest and greatest.
like,
And that's kind of where they fell flat. Even if it looked as good as this render, I still don't think it's a $2.5 million hypercar.
at only 112 of them worldwide, I kind of get it. So the reason why I say that is because the Cyan sold, and that was even more limited, I think, and it was the
Hmm.
same price. Like this, it hits the hearts of those people that couldn't get a Countach back then, but like now have tons of money and can buy one. But if you have tons of money now, would you buy the new Countach or would you buy the old one, the one that you had on your poster?
Yeah, my favorite photo is someone rendered the Wolf of Wall Street with Leonardo DiCaprio kicking up the door on the new Countach. That was my
Your
highlight of
personal.
this week. But I don't know. I think the venting they've done on the real car is not bad. And this is a good picture, I think. The one that you have right now, where they have the
Side profile.
like, yeah, the side profile of the original, you definitely get that that overall shape and that like a really unique rear wheel opening, and just the this type of milling and tooling that's required to make all these unique body panels. It's not cheap, and because it's limited, that's why it's so expensive. But I think when you're shopping for your multi-million dollar hypercar, you want something that's a little bit more exclusive. You don't want to pull up and, oh, that's an Aventador with a body kit,
Mm,
because being here in Vancouver, an Aventador, you're pretty desensitized to that already,
yeah.
right? Like that's you see one every day.
There's so many actually.
Yeah, like, yeah, and I think that's the thing is, I want to, if I'm spending 3 to 4 times more money, I want it to look 3 to 4 times more fancy. If
Yeah.
I pull up in a Chiron or Koenigsegg anything or Pagani anything, that clearly is on a different level from an Aventador.
Mhm.
That is the problem with the Countach, is that it doesn't look, and the thing is, the Countach was in the same category as an Aventador. That was, the Aventador is the modern uh, equivalent of a Countach.
Right.
So suddenly you have Countach up there. Um, just doesn't make sense.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I said this when I first saw the drawing, like the actual photos. I'm like, that's not so much Countach as it is Diablo. Um, like yes, the wheel openings are very Countach because it's kind of trapezoidal,
Mhm.
but the overall shape and how it looks and how smooth it is, it's Diablo to
Yeah.
me more than Countach.
Yeah, because the fender is not as jagged. Like, the fender to the A pillar is one smooth line, which is
Yeah,
kind of a more Diablo and up thing. Um, whereas the original one had a little bump. Like, there's a bit more of a crease where the fender meets the A pillar.
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, let's move over to something a little bit more realistic here. Genesis. So Genesis announced like literally an hour ago this brand new EV. It's the GV60 in this lime green color. It looks weird, I would say.
It looks like a Citroen.
It does look like a Citroen. It's based
Yeah.
on the eGMP platform, which is the base of the Ioniq 5 as well as the Kia EV6. I don't think it looks bad, but there's something about that rear end that is just a little too bubbly for me, I
It,
think.
it's taller than it is. Like, it's too tall. Kind of got that Aztec vibe where your
Mm,
wheel ends here and your roof is way up there.
yeah.
And so it's just awkwardly proportioned.
Yeah, it's definitely weird and awkward. The interior, I'm getting a very, very like Ionic 5 vibe
Even
on
the
the inside.
colors, yeah.
It's very similar to that, except it has some Genesis details, like the center console. It has the Genesis rotary dial. It looks like the
Mm.
steering wheel looks really funky with a bunch of buttons on it, and there's no side view mirrors. There's just monitors on the side.
Yeah.
Um, don't know if that's going to be legal here in North America because I think like the e-tron in some other parts of the world have that, but we don't get it here because you know we don't even have headlight laws that can approve laser headlights. So it's stupid. But I think it looks funky.
I
But
think I
being
figured it out. They flipped it around. Like, if you pull up an Ionic 5 and just, if you have these side by side, badges covered and all, which one is supposed to be the forward thinking luxury brand vehicle, you think? This GV60 next to an Ionic 5 is just
I
This
don't have a
one,
good way to put it inside.
yeah, like they've gone and put this, they painted it in this lime green color, and they've given it such a funky line overall. And the Ionic is sleek. Like the
Yeah,
Ionic 5 looks premium to me. So
yeah,
this is a weird choice from Hyundai Genesis to me.
yeah. Because generally Hyundai is the one that's like more funky, whereas
Yeah,
Genesis is the one that's supposed to be a little bit more mature.
yeah.
And
Exterior wise, I think like I don't know the QV, what's QV GV60 is not, doesn't look like a Genesis to me. Like look at the grill.
yeah,
It's all grill. They've gone with the Avalon grill on a car that doesn't even need it.
it's only on the lower bumper this time though. It's not the
Yeah.
entire face.
Yeah, like it's got a bigger grill than pretty much. Well, no, the Elantra N had a
Oh,
bigger
that
grill.
that had a big grill.
That was
Yeah.
all grill, but it doesn't make any sense to have this car be this funky and have this much grill and be called a Genesis. This should be a Kia, if anything.
Yeah, and the Kia EV6 is actually really pretty as well. So like,
Yeah, very sleek, premium, luxury. I get it. This is none of what's been coming out of the Genesis pipeline,
yeah,
aside from those two-piece headlights, two-piece tail light. You know,
it doesn't really flow with the rest of the Genesis lineup. That's basically what it comes down to.
yeah,
It,
this is a Kona. Like the
yeah,
color is a Kona, the fenders are a Kona, and it's the Kona Coupe turned EV, stretched out a little bit bigger. But this has more in common with a Kona than anything in the Genesis lineup.
I was actually thinking that it kind of reminds me of the Bolt because the Bolt you can get it in kind of this green color.
Yeah.
So there's kind of that vibe from the color alone. It's
Hmm.
definitely weird. I think I got to see it like in like video or in person before I
Yeah.
judge it some more. But from the photos, it's a little too funky for me for a
It's
Genesis.
so
But
funky. And it's like, whose idea was it to put a blue interior on a green car? On a lime green car? Like, any other manufacturer or designer is going to slap you for trying to put that together. Like, you go into your online configurator and that combination is just not possible,
you
but they let you here.
well, that's a perfect segue because you know who did do a blue interior inside their
Yeah.
brand new car? The Nissan, because Nissan Z. So a while back we talked about the prototype,
Yeah.
and Nissan already said that the prototype is like 90% of what the new Z is going to look like.
Absolutely.
So this is a brand new 2023 Nissan Z. They dropped the
Yeah.
400, so there's no more number in front of it. It's just called the Z
Hmm.
or Z if you're a Canadian, but
Yeah.
you probably should call it the Z. Let's be honest.
Really bad search engine optimization there, because not only have they not called it the 400, they kept the chassis code from before. They could have changed it, even though I get it, it's the same chassis,
Yeah,
but
it's
call it something different so
Z
at least people know. Um,
Z34.5.
yeah, because if you search Z34, you're not gonna find, a body kit that fits this car. You're
Well,
gonna find the old one.
you're probably going to find suspension that fits this car because
Suspension,
the
yeah,
chassis is the same as the old car. This
yeah,
is this is a 370Z with a brand new clothing on the outside and brand new interior. The
yeah.
heart, which we'll talk about a little bit later, is new to the Z, but not new to the Nissan family.
Mhm. It's been
Um,
around for like 4 or 5 years, actually.
it's been a while for a while. So, I mean, okay, let's talk about looks first. Um, front end, you go first.
It's a Domo-kun, so it's got a really shocked square grill. I get it. It's paying homage to
The 240.
the 240, the S30 generation.
Yeah,
Um, the 30s, that is kind of the iconic Z car, the original Fair Lady. I had the one after the 31. The rear is a 32, but
yeah.
the front, I don't know if I can get with this front. It's not bad. It's not bad, but it doesn't look like, okay. It doesn't. if you don't know the S30 lines that particularly, you're not gonna think S30. And the headlight has the shape has no meaning to it. It's not retro. It
So
no flow to it.
okay, so it's a square grill, which I don't personally like. I think the grill should be rounded off because it makes more sense. But it's a square grill. I don't think that upper grill is real. I think only lower down is real, because you need a bumper support somewhere back there,
Hmm.
right? Because it makes sense to have a bumper support back there. And if you look at the 370Z, the grill is lower. Same thing with the 350. So I'm
Yeah.
thinking the top grill or maybe upper portion of it may be fake. The headlights, it's supposed to reminiscent of the S30, so it's a round headlight. When you kind of shine out of it, you kind of get this glimmer, so you get that top and bottom DRL. That's what they kind of shaped it after. It's fine, I guess. What I like is the hood. The hood has the S30 kind of indent on the center, so it's like a flat portion with a crease that goes down to the center here. It's not bad. There's nothing wrong with the looks, but I think it's fine. But
Yeah.
it's the back end that I love the most because the back end, those taillights, absolutely fantastic.
Yeah. And instantly recognizable. Like if you want it to be
Yeah.
retro but also modern, they've done a great job on that. And the big Nissan badge on the back, um, that's a nice touch. The roof is a nice touch.
I kind of wish the glass was a little bit bigger. Most of the photos that you're going to see is with a black roof on it. So it hides that really well, but the glass is the same size as the 370, but they extended the rear end a little bit. So the proportion on that, I just feel like it should have been a little bit bigger, to have better visibility out for the rear side. But I think it's fine. The blue one that we see here, it's the performance variant. So there's going to be three trims at launch: the sport, and then the performance, and then the proto. Sport is basically your base model. It's going to be $40,000 US, and it's going to have the 3-liter twin turbo V6, 400 horse, 350 torque. It's the same one that's in the Q60, and it's going to be mated to a 6-speed manual. An automatic is an option, a 9-speed, because you know you never bothered to learn manual, so you have to buy the 9-speed auto. Cool little fact about the 9-speed auto though, it's the same one that's used in the Nissan Frontier. So technically speaking, the Nissan Frontier, if you want to put a VR30 DTTT in it, you should be able to. Maybe,
Hmm.
maybe. So just saying, we might see some twin turbo Frontiers in the future. But 6-speed is a carryover from the 370. And that's really like your base sport model. The performance lineup adds the dual exhaust. You get 19-inch raised wheels. You get bigger brakes. You get an LSD. And you also get stiffer suspension. I think the performance model is kind of where you want it to be because it's everything that you really want in a Z in one package. Whereas the prototype comes in that special yellow paint that you saw in the prototype version. You also get bronzed wheels and yellow brake calipers, along with yellow stitching on the inside and some yellow accents as well. So all it is a color add-on for that
Mhm.
rare spec prototype. And there's only so many of them that they're being built. I think 240 of them
Probably 240 to pay homage to the
to the original
240.
240.
Yeah. The yellow color works pretty good, especially on the inside, I think.
Mhm.
Blue interior. My Z had a blue interior, so I'm a little bit biased towards it. I think it looks pretty cool. But the seats are very similar to the old one. The door card looks too similar to the old one.
I think the go kart's the same.
It looks virtually identical. They've changed some textures, I think, but the interior for a brand new model looks dated, quote unquote brand new.
So, let me see here. Oh no, the door cards are different. I mean, the
Yeah,
door
very
post exact same.
marginally different.
It's
Yeah,
just the cloth kind of insert is a little bit different. But
yeah.
actually,
To
I think
me,
are the seats the same. No, no,
yeah,
they've been revised.
we can kind of forgive it. The reason why I say that is if it's a driver focused car,
Mhm.
um, the fact that you still have manual climate control knobs and it's just an infotainment screen. It's a pretty simple driver focused cabin. So I think we can overlook a lot of that stuff. Um, and honestly, given its price point, it's not that bad. The
No.
Supra has a really boring door card. I look at it every day and I'm like, it's missing design elements here that I feel like you get that on a BMW, but you don't on the Supra.
Well, that's why you're paying $10,000 less than a Z4.
Almost, it's actually like
Oh,
20,000 if you go
jeez.
apples to apples. Yeah, so you do get the better interior on the Z4, no doubt. But yeah, I don't mind what they've done on this interior. Like it's easy to crap on it, but it's Nissan's infotainment's pretty okay. Um, and it's got a digital cluster. It is the update we needed. We could have used this like 3 years ago,
5 years
but
ago.
but still respectable. You know, the fact that they're making this car still is worth something, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. Um, the digital cluster, it's a 12.8, 12.3 inch digital cluster. It's a very similar one that you find in like the Nissan Rogue. I'm sure it's the same screen, but different software. Of course, you got a big tack in the center. It
Mhm.
looks good. I like it.
Yeah.
On like the race modes that they were showing off, you can get a boost gauge, engine oil temp, as well as a water temp on your gauge, so you can really keep in check all of the engine vitals. Um,
Yeah, which is important historically on Z cars. Oil and water temperature are both of concern. And now we've got more power than ever, turbocharging and the same little grill opening. Um, I that's my concern with this car is how I think the upper part of that grill is real.
upper part, two of the four slots is real, two of the bottom is fake. That's where your bumper support is.
Yeah. So that's my concern is really cooling because Nissan hasn't been great with this chassis, like not just this chassis, but the ones before it, for cooling, and that's going to be an issue when it comes to actual track performance. For everyday street stuff, this is going to be an awesome engine, I think.
Oh yeah.
For the 3-liter V6, there's already a decent aftermarket for it,
Mhm,
but with the launch of the Z, that aftermarket is going to grow so immensely,
mhm.
because before it was really just the Q50, Q60 that had this motor, or that people would modify.
And
I
people
think,
did still like
yeah, the
it's
Red
a
Sport people
pretty,
were pretty excited about that.
yeah, there's a pretty
Um,
healthy community for them.
yeah, so I do see this growing that community even further. The base model has pretty basic calipers, two pistons, 18-inch wheels. Just doesn't feel quite right. It's kind of
Yeah.
like the GR Supra 2.0.
Mm.
Like it just visually it's missing something, and it's just like for probably a small. We don't know exact pricing yet, and we don't know what Canadian pricing is either.
Hmm.
But we know that roughly it should start around 40,000 US.
But I think for the enthusiast, a base model wouldn't be that bad. Because when I'm saying enthusiast, I'm saying people that will dump tons of money into it. They would
Mhm.
change their brakes anyways. They would get an aftermarket exhaust. They would change the seats. Like they're gonna change the things that is upgraded, and they're gonna strip out things that they don't need, like a heavier infotainment with better speakers. Like
Mhm.
there's people that I know that just drive around with head like earphones plugged in because the car is so loud. Once they
Yeah,
stripped out all the sound deadening and everything, right? So the base model may be the one for the enthusiast.
yeah. They needed at least a limited slip, and they couldn't give us that.
That's
That
true.
is, I
That's
feel
true.
like you can give me a stripper spec car, but it needs the basic performance. Like we don't know exactly how this car is going to be specced out. Hopefully, like under the hood, it's all the same across the
Hmm.
board. But we do know that the limited slip is only on the higher model,
Yeah, only on the
uh,
performance trim.
which in this segment is not really acceptable anymore because even the base Supra has it, the base BRZ FRS, well, 86 has it, base Mustang has it, pretty sure the Camaro has it, and so as far as a FR sports car, it's that is a big miss on their part. And again, it's like if you just included it, it's one less part to
Yeah,
one less variation. I would think that
when
it kind of makes costs keeps costs down in a sense. To make
yeah,
to have less variance. It should be pretty fast, at least in a straight line, though.
yeah, 400 horse, 350 torque is definitely no slouch.
Yeah.
But with that kind of power, with no limited slip diff, I mean, if you're going to be taking it around, not even a track, I'm just thinking like, mountain road, you're going to be spinning that inside tire
Hmm.
pretty easily. I'm thinking just 350 pound-feet, and on the
Yes.
Q60, that torque was instantly available. The throttle response on it was really good.
Yeah, and
Uh,
and I think for the numbers, guys, 400 horsepower, like that's bang on. Stock out of the box, 400 horsepower. That's more than you get on the Supra.
mhm.
That's more than you get on anything Porsche under 100K, pretty much. So,
So
yeah,
there's two things I want to talk about here. The first thing is, yes, it's an old chassis. Yes, it's technically a reused engine. I don't think that matters. Very
hmm
similar thing that we saw in the GR86. It's the same chassis. They put in a new engine with more torque. Now, every single review that's been launched in the past, few days has been raving about that car.
yeah,
This is $10,000 more than that. At
yeah,
$10,000 more, you get almost double the power. Double the power,
yeah. And that's
right?
before you tune it, for sure. After you tune it, that's
Yeah.
yeah,
So like, yes, I get, the base GR86 is gonna be your everyday sports car. It's attainable, but if you work a little bit harder, take a couple more shifts, do a little bit of overtime, you get a car with double the power. But then when we're thinking about the price at $40,000, which I'm gonna pass straight to you, because you found a few other variables that kind
yeah.
of put this into its place, right?
Yeah, that's my concern about this Z is that it's got competitors and it's got competitors that aren't new to the game. Because I'm thinking for someone in my position, just grassroots guys that just want to go to a track day every now and then, the GR86 makes sense because it's cheap enough and the ND makes sense because those cars are proven chassis. We know they'll run all day, and that's really what you're paying for with a track car. This being a not that well tracked engine, having cars like the Mustang Performance Pack and the Camaro 1LE price right against it, that I think is going to be huge, huge obstacle for the Z to get over, because I can't see myself picking a Z over one of those because I know those cars work on track. I know they'll run all day long. I know they have support with a huge dealer network across North America. So parts are going to be easier to get. I don't know. For me, that seems like the pick. I think for me, the Z has to be chosen from a styling perspective and maybe nostalgia.
I think there's a big nostalgic part in there. Like,
Yeah,
you're maybe once in your timeline that you owned a Z or your parents had a Z.
yeah,
That's what they're trying to hit. Because like pricing wise, like we're thinking the performance variant should be around 45 or so, which is exactly in line with a Camaro SS 1LE. And Camaro SS 1LE, it's going to have more power. It's a V8 under the hood. It has mag ride. Like it has
yeah.
really good
Magnetic
stuff.
ride, 285 front tires, 305 rear tires.
It
This
has rear
is
seats.
It has rear seats. They're not the greatest, but they're still rear seats.
Like
I was able to put a few friends in there. The trunk,
yeah,
same
I
thing.
wasn't there.
It's actually you weren't there.
I was in the back seat. That was not fun.
One time we tried to fit 5 people in there.
Oh god.
I think the middle hump is not usable in the car, but the Camaro, yeah, ELSD, like that is a race car. Like the Camaro, that car blew me away, and that car sticker price here in Canada was $50,000, And I cannot think of anything under $80,000 that could come close to it in terms of being as track ready out of the box, not ever having to worry about temperature, brakes, tires, anything. Just worked flawlessly as a track animal. That is by far like one of my favorite cars from the last 2 decades.
Yeah.
And the Z, I don't think it lives up. We don't know yet, but knowing Nissan's engineering budget and how low volume this car
you
is,
mean you mean a $0 budget?
the next to nothing is just carryover parts. We're gonna fine tune. The problem is, okay, the BRZ from day one, that car drove perfect,
Mm.
right? The handling was perfect, steering was perfect, brakes were great, everything was great about it except for the engine, and they've now fixed that. So that's why all the reviews that have come out this week rave about that car, because the extra torque and a new engine characteristic has fixed the fatal flaw with the FRS BRZ
So
86.
so okay, the original 86, the torque dip at like 3,000 or so was the thing that most people complain about. But if you actually go back to the 86 videos when it first came out, no one complained about that because everyone was like always at the top of the red range, which the 86 was fine at.
Yeah.
And right now, most of the videos that you've seen, they're all like track kind of videos. I'm waiting for someone to do like a day to day, like like a rolling launch of the vehicle just to see, where that torque actually lands up, because I'm curious more for that than anything else.
Yeah, because I just sold my FRS about a month ago,
And I
and it
hate you
was the
for not
same
selling it
thing.
to me.
It's like the car was amazing on track,
Mhm.
because at that high RPM, but it was so miserable on the street. It felt so slow. And no, even one of our buddies who came from an SI into the FRS, he was like, "This car's kind of slow compared to the SI, which both at 200 horsepower, but it doesn't have the smooth engine characteristic of the Honda." And so if you're used to the NA power that the Honda had, that kind of power delivery, the noise, the smoothness, you didn't get that from the FRS. That is what I've heard about the new engine that's just a lot better. Um, I'm I'm pretty sure that that's resolved every issue with that car, and I am really looking forward to that car. It could
Well,
be joining the stable at some point.
well, one of your close friends is getting one, so I'm sure you got
Yeah.
to get some
He's
seat time in it.
kind of on the fence. He's put a deposit down, but he's kind of on the fence still.
Mm.
But he only put that deposit after driving mine. And I get it. Like that, this car's chassis is flawless. The problem with this what I want to call a Z35, but it's just the 400Z. You can't even call it the 400Z. The new Z, the problem with that is it didn't have a good chassis to begin with, right? You're carrying over something that did not impress anyone. When now, keep in mind when the 370Z first came out, we all thought it was really expensive too. It was like 50 grand.
And they then did a massive price drop.
They kind of did, but they also like stripped a lot of stuff out where they gave you something like this with an open diff, the backup cameras in the rearview mirror in 2009 or 2019, sorry. It had Bluetooth calling but no Bluetooth streaming. Like they really gave you a peasant spec car uh to quote unquote give it a price drop. But remember in '09, the Mustang had that 4 liter
Mm.
uh
The
4 liter
V6.
V6 that made no power,
Yeah.
used got terrible fuel economy, and that's what we were comparing this against. It didn't have the domestics have caught up so much. The Camaro like barely existed at that point. We knew it from Transformers. That's about it. There was no 1LE. It wasn't really until the Z28 that everyone's mind changed about the Camaro. That's around what 2014, 2015.
Mhm.
So much has changed since then, and then obviously the FRS BRZ. So this whole industry or this market segment with these FR sports cars that are pretty track ready out of the box, that's evolved so much, and you're carrying over what even in '09 was not a phenomenal chassis. That I
Yeah,
think is gonna be
the biggest hurdle for them.
it's
That's
gonna be a
really
huge hurdle.
that's
Yeah.
that's the thing. I I personally I really like this car. My dad had a 300Z Z or ZX, I can't remember, when he was back in Hong
CX.
Kong. I really liked it.
The
I
same
think
one
it
I had, or older than that.
older than yours. Older than
Older is
yours.
probably a 280.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I just remember seeing it was red on red. Like the interior was that really amazing red velour interior. It was
Yeah. I
absolutely
had the
beautiful.
blue velour interior.
Like I think it's there's a little bit of me that saw that photo of my dad, when he was young and standing next to it, and I'm like, man, that'd be really cool for me to to have that little bit of nostalgic feel to it. I can get one get my dad for a ride, and he'll be really happy, I'm sure. But like, I think that's really it, right? There's
Yeah.
nothing else about it that really says this is the car to buy.
You have to really want to be different to get this car.
Mm.
That's kind of what I'm thinking.
But I also think it's like at the price point factor, yes, it's similar to Mustang and similar to a Camaro. If you're going to be tracking it, I think the Camaro, I believe the Alpha package or Alpha platform is the one to get. But
Mhm.
if you're not, if you're driving this on the street daily and you're looking at a Supra, I think this might be a better option because it's $20,000 less than a
Yeah.
Supra.
I think in Canada it will be close to that. Maybe 15, at least $15,000 less than the six-cylinder version of a Supra.
Yeah.
Supra, lot more engineering R&D budget
Well,
there
not
from
Toyotas.
BMW, but it's a bargain BMW in a sense. But yeah, I it's kind of like a double-edged sword. Like if Nissan poured all their money and R&D budget into this car, it could have been something
Does
great,
it doesn't make sense
but
from a
it
company
wouldn't make
perspective.
financial sense.
Yeah.
And then you kind of do this kind of half-ass effort, and it's like, I don't know. I don't know if that's doing the Z name justice.
I think it's not doing the Z name justice, exactly what you said. But Nissan as a company, they don't like they're okay as a company. They make enough money, right? But the one that they sell the most to make money is the Nissan Rogue. That's why that it's a brand new chassis inside out, but it still has a carryover engine, right? So like even the best car that they have to sell, the best car, the one that makes them the most money, they use a carryover engine. It really just shows, well, they really don't have that much money to develop something that's new. That's what I think.
Yeah, they need a partner. They need a BMW. They need a Subaru to
Well,
to put together.
they have Renault, they have Mitsubishi.
Yeah, Renault makes some pretty sick hot hatches.
Yeah, but we'll
Yeah,
never see them.
we'll never see them, and the technology has no relevance to this car.
Yeah,
But engine-wise, this kind of an impressive engine. I mean, that's what you're
yeah.
paying for over. Okay, so back to the GR86 for $10,000 more roughly. Is this worthwhile? I think it depends if the style is worth it to you, and if the name is worth it to you, if the power is worth it to you. Because I think on the street, this is going to be more fun, just having that power on tap.
Absolutely.
And still got a six speed, that's pretty good six speed. They were one of the first mainstream sports cars to really incorporate rev matching,
Yeah.
and now everyone does it. Um, some better than others. The
I just
Honda one's not great.
I remember the 370Z shifter to be a little rubbery though. I remember it wasn't like as slick as it can be.
Hmm. It's a
But
bit heavier, I think.
yeah,
It's a heavier car.
but I think you're absolutely right. The FRS BRZ the GR86 and BRC, because it's going to be lighter and that more free revving four cylinder, that naturally aspirated four cylinder, it's going to be more fun on the track. I think that's where that belongs, as a kind of grassroots entry level track car. But at $10,000 more, I don't think the base model Z is going to be that great on the track. I think that's going to be a good entry level into maybe modifying it, or if you get the performance version, maybe on those lapping days where you only have, one or two laps, and then you go back in and cool down, and you call
Yeah.
it a day kind of thing. That's where I think this shines, as well as on the street, because like when I drove the Supra, I thought it was too much for the street, the 3 liter Supra. But
Yeah.
you drove it on the track and you thought it was completely fine. It's just too much for the street, because it's like, with that much torque and that
Yeah.
much power, you can't put it all down. You can't enjoy it. And this has more, right?
Yeah.
So
But I think, okay, so the types of people that will buy this are up for those, highway pulls and stuff. I think that's where this thing is gonna shine.
oh, absolutely.
Yeah, give it a slight tune, get it up to 500 horse, and it looks cool. It is fast in a straight line, and if you're okay with that, I think this kind of a future classic in that sense.
If
It
you
has the looks.
the proto spec especially, I think that's going to go up in value, because it's going to
Yeah,
be super limited. You're going to get
it's
one
gonna
of
be
the
so
few.
rare.
But what I'm afraid of is the people that are buying it is they're just keeping it locked away.
Yeah, well, and I think part of the appeal to this is that it's gonna be low volume. It's not, you're not confusing yourself for the guy that rented a V6 Camaro or the base model Mustang. You don't see them everywhere. You're not gonna, and that's kind of, honestly, that's kind of the appeal of the Supra too. The Supra mechanically, performance wise, like, take it from someone who knows, but the M2 destroys it. Uh, the Supra is more comparable to like a 240i, but the Supra looks like $1 million. I think that's kind of like, honestly, like that. It comes down to that, and I think that's something that these two cars have in common, and I think these two cars are going to be compared a lot. Both are flawed. I think the Supra chassis in stock form is quite flawed. I think the M2 had a better chassis out of the box, and yeah, the Supra, same thing. It has a great, really strong, smooth, reliable engine, but it's not. I don't know. I think so on track it wasn't, mm, doesn't really perform quite as well as I wanted to out of the box.
It doesn't
Um,
tickle your fancy.
I don't think. I think it needs maybe about 5 grand worth of aftermarket upgrades to really get there. And I think the Z is about the same. Out of the box, it's not going to be that amazing, um, just
Yeah.
because they kind of designed it to work for a lot of people. A lot of the guys that drive 370s, a lot older. I like, because the younger guys can't afford 45, $50,000
Our friend David
two seater.
is not older, and he definitely didn't spend that much. He bought the base model Z. Then,
Yeah,
then he dumped
like,
about 30 grand into it.
yeah, a lot of my customer that do end up with this car, I do see like older guys wanting to upgrade, sound system and stuff like that. It's more of that old school hot rodder type of um,
It's a cruiser.
clientele. Yeah, you got to understand its limitations. I think we get into, as car enthusiasts, we do get into a bit too numbers focused and just too objective about stuff. As reviewing cars and giving our opinions, we get a bit too objective about it, and there is a lot of appeal to this Z. Even though I necessarily would not buy it, I wouldn't choose it over any of those aforementioned cars, Supra 86, any of the domestics. But I think there there is charm to this car. I think the sheet metal is just so unique. So I think if you really like the look of it, you should still get it while you
Absolutely.
can.
Absolutely. And I think it's one of those cars that like you can actually drive and enjoy without getting
Yeah.
harassed. Like when you're driving a Supra, I don't know if it was just me when I had it and mine was in red and it caught a lot of attention.
Oh.
I was just, every single time at a stoplight, I was just like, hey, race, 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 race me. I'm like, no,
No,
I'm not gonna
it's
race
insane. The yellow is even worse for that. I get like heckled all the time. I was on a test drive with the a Toyota technician because for my seat issue, and if someone yelled out, "Is that a Supra?" And I'm like, I don't know how to explain to him what that meant. I was in Chinatown, and homeless people wanted to have a photo shoot with me because they they're like, "That's such a cool." They're like, "Oh, you should pull around the corner. There's a wall there with a mural that this car would look so good against." And I'm like, "Fuck, these guys are
no.
homeless, and I'm like,
I want to get out of here.
I want to go home. Please let me go." But it's like if you're really shy, that's not the car to own.
No, nor 400Z. I think you're going to get very similar problems, but I
Yeah,
think it's going to be
just
less.
because it's so unique. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that brings us on to something that's a lot more boring, but a lot.
Depends who you ask.
Oh, I
The mommy blogger audience is huge.
yeah.
And I watched this video. I honestly I don't watch all of your videos, but I watched this one.
Ouch. Um, I'm very hurt right now, and I don't know what to say. But okay. So this we're talking about the Chrysler Pacifica. I reviewed the plug-in hybrid variant a few weeks back, and I personally think it is the best family vehicle. I desperately want one. My wife won't let me buy one because this is
Because
a
it's a
family.
Chrysler.
Well, no, because it's a family of three, and this can carry eight. Like it doesn't make sense. Like it doesn't make sense that way. But it's it's a plug-in hybrid, so you get 50 kilometers of electrical range, 30 some odd miles. It just makes so much sense as a family vehicle. You don't have to pay for gas for up to 50 kilometers. It's great for longer drives because it has a good range as well. It's like
Yeah.
835 kilometers of total range. Like it,
Wait,
everything about it makes sense.
it's pretty reasonably priced too. Because there's
Uh,
$8,500 of incentives right now.
62,000 as tested.
60, but that's before incentives.
That's before incentives, and that's before Chrysler giving you incentives, which they
Yeah.
always do.
Because I'm looking at the full load right now. It's 53
This is full load.
Pinnacle.
Yeah, this is Pinnacle.
Yeah, yeah. So it's on Chrysler.ca right now. It's with destination is 55,
Hmm.
which I think that's not bad.
At 55, like you're undercutting everything else. The Carnival,
Yeah,
the Sienna, you're not going to get anywhere at that price point.
that's full load. There's no options on there.
And the
Just paint.
Pinnacle, it's beautiful. You get cushions in the back seats because
Yeah,
that's how you know it's high end. Like Rolls Royce gets you cushions.
yeah. That rear entertainment system is like, oh, that is nice. Like, I don't know. Compared to, I don't even know if you get anything on that level with a Sienna or an Odyssey, but
No, you don't. And then the camera system that's built in, the fam cam where you can
yeah,
see the inside, like it's at a perfect spot for a van. It's not where the Sienna is, where it's in front. Because if it's in front, you don't get to see your kids. This van makes total sense. It's one of the best. One of my friends, Gerald, he's given up his like expensive carves and whatnot, and he actually bought one of these, and he loves this more than anything else.
I love the look of it too.
Yeah,
I really like the facelift that they've done on it.
the
I like
facelift
the
looks
old
good.
one too, but I like this new look better.
I didn't mind the old one because I actually like the Chrysler 200 front end. Like it's there's nothing wrong with it, but this definitely looks a lot better. And the rear end, the tail
Yeah.
lights, like nothing on this is wrong. I couldn't find a single fault with it within this
Yeah.
vehicle.
It's such a great car, but because it's a minivan, that's why like so
Gets
many people
gets
just it's like
gets no love.
yeah, you just everyone wants that three-row crossover, but this is just so much better and
Yeah,
it's like I like and you know what, even the wood that you called ugly, I kind of like it.
yeah. It's not great in person. If you really want a three-row crossover, they do make not the plug-in hybrid, but you can get a gasoline version of the Pacifica now with
Mm.
all-wheel drive. So
Oh,
if
and
you
that one does have stow and go? Or?
It does have. I don't know. I should. It should still have stow and go
Yeah.
because it's a gasoline version. It should be in the center, but there's a prop
Yeah,
shaft,
yeah.
so I'm not sure.
Huh.
I got
Does
the,
it?
but yeah, that would be you lift it obviously, and then you put some little bit knobbly all terrains in, and
Yeah.
you get a off road wagon.
I forgot that the Caravan existed. But
So
the
the
Caravan is the 200 front end.
yeah, it's the well, so it's a bit of the older front end, but still a little bit newer. In the US, they call it the Voyager.
Oh.
But the Caravan, it's basically just a stripped down model of the Pacifica, because the
Hmm.
base model Pacifica was priced a lot higher. And when they killed off the old Grand Caravan, which was the cheapest van that you can buy, they had to replace it with something. Because, well, fleet needs to have a van, and the
Yeah.
Voyager and Grand Caravan was the one to go for.
Yeah. They don't have that utilitarian boxy van
The
anymore.
Ram van, no, the
Or the
Ram van's gone.
CV.
Yeah,
Yeah. But no, this van pretty dang nice inside, outside, and under the hood.
yeah.
So you need to
Literally,
get one.
I really want one. My wife won't let me.
I get it, man. My favorite car right now is my RAV4 hybrid. Like that's my most like practical car, but it's like I don't know. I'm really happy with that car,
Yeah,
and I think the Pacifica hybrid, same thing. It's like
it checks every single box that I have. I
it
mean,
just feels put together well. Like it feels pretty nice.
yeah. I mean, sure, it's no race car. It's not fast by any means. It doesn't handle well, but on the street, why do you care about that?
Yeah.
You're not racing a Supra at every light because, who does that? Unless, you're in the fast family.
Yeah.
But
Imagine Vin Diesel with that rotary knob.
that's not going to work well for him.
Yeah. No, I like this van, and I think they're pulling out the stops. Like they're putting decent equipment into there because it is the market is shrinking, right? Everyone wants a
Yeah.
crossover. So to fight for your market share, I think this is a solid effort.
Oh, absolutely.
Um,
I would put the Pacifica as number one in terms of new vans. But I've yet to test out the new Carnival. But like the reason why I love this Pacifica so much is that plug-in hybrid variant.
yeah,
And you just can't get that on the Carnival.
yeah.
I think
There's no comparison.
I think the Carnival, like there's some bits and pieces about it that I like so far, but I'll give a roundup of all the vans sometime later
Yeah,
this year because I did get a chance to be in all of them recently, so it's going to be great.
nice. Yeah, the Carnival, the second row, I think that's its like it's party piece,
Yeah,
quite
but
literally. But I
no
don't know. It's
family is buying that trim for the
exactly
Carnival with those seats because it's
exactly because
not
you're not
family
driving
friendly.
around execs in it
Yep,
in
it's
North America at least.
no, it's definitely not.
Yeah,
Not the model that families would get at all, because
yeah,
those seats are much more bulkier. You can't fold them down. You can't do the
exactly.
things that you need to do with them in an actual practical vehicle.
And even when you compare this to the Sienna, this seat, the second row, is easy to pop out, whereas Sienna
You
is like
can't.
it's not meant to be
So
taken out.
the new Sienna, because the second row has airbags built into them, and the reason why the airbags are built into them is because they slide so far fore and aft, they had to build them in. And because of that, you cannot take that seat out. I mean, you can, but you need tools and you need to disconnect the battery
Yeah.
because there is an airbag in there,
And if you disconnect it, you're going to have an airbag light.
which means all the other airbags don't work. So, like, yeah, no,
Yeah.
it's not recommended at all.
So kind of well thought through. I mean, I was always sold on Stow and Go, but
Oh, absolutely.
but I get why this one can't have it.
I don't
And
mind that though. The
yeah,
second seats are better in this because it doesn't have stow and go.
yeah,
The
and it's still
seats are thicker.
relatively easy to take out. So.
Oh yeah, they're not super heavy. You just put them on the side. Like the only time you need to take the middle seat out is if you're carrying like 4x8s kind of thing. If you're
Mhm.
carrying something that large, but you're not going to be doing that every day. When you need
How
to
is
take
it?
the seats out.
How is this for like squeaks and stuff? Flexing.
Honestly speaking, it was better than the Sienna. Sienna had squeaks and rattles. during rougher terrain. This didn't have any. I was actually surprised by that.
Yeah, because I
Being a
remember you talking about
Stellantis,
chassis flex and whatnot.
yeah,
Uh, yeah.
being a Stellantis product, I didn't have good hopes for it, but it surprised me.
Mm.
No
Yeah, and
space.
this is really the only Chrysler product that's relevant anymore. Like under the Chrysler name. The
Oh,
300 is long gone.
I mean, there's only 3 cars under the Chrysler name right now. There's
Yeah,
this, the Grand Caravan, and then the 300.
yeah. Like between Chrysler, Dodge, Fiat, this is probably the most relevant one.
Oh, I don't know. Dodge makes a lot of Hellcats.
They've got the Durango is still cool.
Oh, I love the Durango.
Yeah, the Durango, it's got such a the aesthetic matters so much, honestly. Like
Yeah,
it's kind of a make it or break it thing, but it matters. Like it's a good contrast though, right? Like if you want that bro van, then you get a Durango,
yeah,
and then if you want like an actually really good minivan, a people carrier, this is the way to go.
yeah, absolutely.
And they're like the polar opposites because one you can get with a gas guzzling V8 supercharged if you really want, and then this one you can get with a
Plug-in
plug-in
hybrid.
hybrid.
Yeah,
So that's kind of interesting perspective, but
it's the entire spectrum in 2 vehicles.
yeah, of people carrying vehicles, you have the Hellcat and the hybrid.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. Well, I think that's about it for this week. Was there anything else that you wanted to add?
No, I think we've covered everything. Oh, Mercedes V8. Should we talk about that just
Oh,
briefly?
yeah. Let's
Yeah.
talk about that real quick. So news came down that the Mercedes is no longer, well, for the rest of the year they can't sell any V8s because of a supply chain issue. But some other reports have been shown that the reason why they're not selling it is because of emission issues.
Hmm.
So not exactly sure why at this moment, but yeah,
Scandalous,
if you want,
potentially.
yeah, maybe. Is this Dieselgate or VA Gate from
Yeah.
Mercedes?
Because I
Um,
can't imagine North American emissions having an issue, but yeah.
yeah, but if you want a V8 anything Mercedes, which any AMG products other than the smaller ones,
Actually,
um,
no. It can't be emissions because the S class is still going to be made
mhm,
with the V8, whereas
mhm.
the SUVs are the ones that are being axed basically for the V8s, and the SUVs usually don't have the same emission
Well,
standards.
I read that on the most trusted
Is it one that we
source.
are kicking tires is superior to?
It is. I think I saw it there. I got to double check. I don't want to name them without actually finding the information because I don't want their lawyers to be calling me because I don't have any lawyers. Um,
Wait, don't you?
no, actually, it was on Car and Driver. Reports suggest Mercedes is pulling out most V8s out of the U.S. Actually, let me pop this here. Let me share the screen just so that we can see here. Reports suggest Mercedes pulling out most V8s out of the US for 2022. The problem is reportedly a supply chain related, though a purported leak document also seemed to be referencing changing global emission regulations. I love the Victoria's Secret
the
ad that I
attitude.
got inside here is perfect. Thank you.
Nice. Yeah.
Let's hit X on that. Um, But yeah, so there's a post on Reddit that claims that Mercedes is suspending all cars for V8, blah, 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 for 2022. There was an update. Car and Driver has been in touch with a Reddit user who posted the original thread. The user shared a document with us that is an alleged communication from the Mercedes Benz to US dealers. The document phrasing matches that statement provided to us separately by Mercedes-Benz. It lists 17 2022 model year V8 vehicles that dealers will no longer be able to order or schedule for production behalf of their customers.
Hmm.
So yeah, don't exactly know. Maybe
Yeah.
V8 gate is around the corner,
I,
but
I I don't think so. Just because, yeah, I read that the S class is still gonna be around. I guess being their flagship, so they're still able to make that one happen, and that one um, probably is under more strict. regulations than the GLS or the G wagon.
Yeah. Well, there is a G Wagon 63. That's a gas guzzling monster.
Yeah.
Well,
So the G wagon is basically not going to be around for a little bit.
yeah, because even the base model G Wagon,
Yeah.
well, here in North America, it's a
As
V8.
if used prices were not high enough for those.
I think
This
there's
year
one.
you won't even be able to get it.
I think there's one on Craigslist for like
They're asking
250.
like well over MSRP for those, and if you export it, you're getting double for
Perfect. That's
to
exactly
Asia.
what I need.
Yeah, I think that's a good note to end on this week.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much. Oh, 338,000 for a 2021 G63.
That's way above MSRP.
Cool. Let me save some change here and go to my local Mercedes dealership.
Yeah, I'm just gonna get the Jimny and slap the G wagon front end
I love
on
that
it
one
and
too.
call it a day.
I love that car.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for watching. Thank you so much for tuning in, and we'll catch you next time on Cooking Tires.
Bye for now.